The clerk will report a resolution.
House Joint Resolution 7001, limiting legislation to be considered by the 2018 Special Session 2 of the General Assembly and establishing a schedule for the conduct of business coming before such special session. The resolution has been distributed, is available online, and Mr. Speaker, there is a floor amendment to HJ 7001 offered by Delegate Simon.
Delegate from Shenandoah, Delegate Gilbert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, members of the House, the House Joint Resolution that you have before you is nothing new in terms of what it does to organize this body and the body down the hall. It provides for the purpose of our special session, the rules, other things that we might do while we are here, such as election of judges and so forth, and appointments to which are subject to confirmation. There is an additional transparency paragraph that you see before you that I think is consistent with the way that both sides of the aisle would choose to handle these matters in a very public, transparent way. And so I offer the resolution for the consideration of the body.
Delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Simon.
Mr. Speaker, members of the House, the amendment is in IHOD, and it's fairly self-explanatory.
Delegate would like to speak to his floor amendment.
Speaking to the floor amendment?
All right, Delegate has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've introduced a floor amendment. It's in IHOD. It goes at the very end of the resolution, and it talks about when we come back. And so typically what we've said is that we come back at the call of the Speaker and the Chairman of the Senate Rules Committee with 48 hours notice. What this amendment does is it says, but in no event later than September 12th, 2018, on the part of the House of Delegates. The idea there being that we've introduced a bill. We're here to redistrict and to correct a map. We've introduced a bill. It's been referred to the Privileges and Elections Committee. Beyond that, we don't really have a schedule for the conduct of business the way we do during a regular session, where committees have a deadline to act, then we have a crossover deadline to get things to the Senate. They have to act and so forth. So all this does, it doesn't try to put too much of a fine point on it. It says that we've got to be back here. The committee will be done with its work by the time we get back on September 12th, so we have time to do our constitutional readings, treat this like any other bill, get it to the Senate so they can act, give the governor, if he needs, time to act, because we're operating under a deadline. This isn't a do it when we can. The court has ordered us to complete this process by October 30th. So the point of the amendment is to hope that we get back here in time to keep this process moving along so that we can meet the court's deadline. That would be the pleasure of the House to pass the amendment.
Mr. Speaker.
Delegate from Shenandoah, Delegate Gilbert.
Mr. Speaker, speaking to the amendment.
Delegate has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, I would ask the members of the body to reject the proposed floor amendment. We have every intention of coming back expeditiously to try to deal with the issues before us. It's just that the time proposed, certainly, the time that the governor gave us to even begin to plan this endeavor was certainly very short notice. The additional short notice certainly impacts a number of members, probably from both sides of the aisle, and their ability to return to take up this matter in a thoughtful manner. And so we have, I would publicly commit to coming back within 3 weeks from now, or at least by that Friday in the third week from now, to try to take up these matters, which I think would be the 21st of September, Mr. Speaker. But we are certainly not trying to delay these proceedings. In fact, I think we're very eager to get to some of the issues that are presently before us and try to take them up in a very thorough manner, very thoughtful manner, and very quickly, for that matter. I don't think 3 weeks is too much to ask for. So we are publicly committing to trying to come back here. I say trying because, again, we can't guarantee that on such short notice everybody will be here. But I think the Speaker, myself, our leadership, are ready to commit to coming back here by the 21st of September to take these up and or take this up and whatever else may be before us at that time. And so I would just ask the members of the body to reject the amendment.
Delegate from Charlottesville, Delegate Toscano.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speaking in favor of the amendment.
Delegate has the floor. Thank
you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, appreciate the comments of the gentleman from Shenandoah and his willingness to specify that we'd come back in 3 weeks. There is a reason why we want an accelerated period of time, Mr. Speaker, and the reason I think should be apparent to everyone who has followed this situation for a while. the district court on June 26th, issued an order that said we had drawn unconstitutional districts and we had to fix the problem. That was June 26th. Since that time, it really has been delay. I'm sure that people are aware that shortly after June 26, I wrote a letter to the Speaker requesting that we convene as quickly as we could to try to draw new maps to fix unconstitutional lines. Nothing came of that. Shortly thereafter, the court then wrote to the House Republicans and said, please tell us what you intend to do. Do you intend to essentially to introduce a map that people can debate and decide on that will fix the unconstitutional districts? At that point, I wrote another letter saying, it's time for us to get together. We need to fix this problem. Again, nothing happened. It was only at that time that the governor stepped in and said, you legislators don't seem to be able to get your act together to have a special session. I'm going to call one because you got to fix a constitutional problem and you have to address a court order. Now, we are here today and we are hearing again, delay. And I can understand the argument to delay if you want to get some more public input on this. But let me also give you some perspective on what happened the last time we faced this challenge. Let me take you back all the way to 2011. Now, not everybody was here, so you probably don't know what happened at that time. At that time, we had to do a redistricting. And we didn't get it done during the general session. So we called a special session. That special session had the introduction of a bill on March 29th. March 29th. There were 3 public hearings and 4 other public hearings that occurred 2 days, within 2 days of the introduction of that bill. And on April 4th, which is less than a week after the bill was introduced, the P&E committee voted that bill out of committee, hit the floor, and it then was passed by the House of Delegates. So don't say that we need all that much more time. And we were dealing with a map that involved the entire state, not just 11 districts. Now, we can either delay, or we can fix the problem. The reason for our amendment is that it holds our feet to the fire, and it gives us much more time than we gave ourselves 10 years ago, 8 years ago to fix this problem. I hope we will vote for the amendment, vote green on the amendment, and let's keep a date certain where we will come back and try to get a vote on something to resolve a constitutional problem. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, a message from the Senate.
Mr. Speaker, I've been directed by the President of the Senate to inform the House of Delegates that the Senate has unanimously agreed to its own Senate procedural resolution, Senate Joint Resolution number 7001.
Thank you, Senator Obenchain. Floor amendment. I thought you've already reported it. Okay. Clerk, report the floor amendment.
Floor amendment offered by Delegate Simon on line 23. After the word rules, insert comma, but in no event later than September 12th, 2018 on the part of the House of Delegates. This is a floor amendment offered by Delegate Sullivan to House Joint Resolution 7001. Simon, excuse me, Delegate Simon.
Delegate from Shenandoah, Delegate Gilbert.
Mr. Speaker, parliamentary inquiry at this point.
Delegate has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, everybody's a little rusty. I believe the question, if I am correct, is on the issue of the floor amendment at this point proposed by the gentleman from Arlington, Delegate Simon. Is that not correct?
The delegate is correct, and after we wrap up discussion, we'll have a vote on the floor amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Shall the floor amendment be agreed to? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. The noes have it. The floor amendment is rejected. The ayes and nays are called for. Shall the floor amendment be agreed to? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 48, noes 48.
Ayes 48, noes 48. The floor amendment is rejected. The delegate from Shenandoah, Delegate Gilbert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would again move the adoption of the resolution.
Mr. Speaker?
Delegate from Charlottesville, Delegate Toscano.
I'm sorry, the speak button's not working, but speaking to the resolution.
Delegate has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House. As you can see by the last vote, it is possible to prevent the passage of the procedural resolution, but on our side, we believe it's very important. We have a responsibility to govern. We're not going to create a problem by rejecting this procedural resolution. We believe we need to get to the work of redrawing these districts as quickly as we can. I'm urging all my colleagues on the Democratic side to vote a very strong green on the procedural resolution.
Shall the resolution be agreed to? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 96, noes 0.
Ayes 96, noes 0. The resolution is agreed to. The delegate from Shenandoah, Delegate Gilbert, will communicate the action of the House of Delegates to the Senate and request its concurrence.